Welcome you back to Show Up 365 videos, and today I want to talk to you about the longing for empathy. This is a dynamic that I have been faced with personally and with hundreds and hundreds of clients that struggle either in their coupleship, and one of the major things that I work around and work with the intensive clients that come in my intensive couples workshops, is that they're struggling to help to understand why they're fighting and scrapping and longing for empathy and what that's about. And so I'm going to take just a short video around, what that understanding is, why that's about, and how can you find the empathy you're looking for in the understanding. Now, that's whether you're the addict or the co-addict, the spouse of an addict. It doesn't matter which way it goes. I think that in the healing process of getting past shame, getting past some of the trauma that we've been through in our lives, is that our brain needs to tell someone else's brain that can understand or can get it or can grasp it for the healing to take place. And so one of the things I want to talk to you about today is that why is this so traumatic and how does it happen and what does it do in the brain? So if you can understand that, then you can understand that it's like there's a dynamic. Now, most of our concepts before everything is kind of blown up in our world is that we have a picture in our minds and our experiences and our memories of what the family was like when we were in. The children, the events, the vacations, and all that that's going on there. For the most part, we have this picture inside of our heads of what that's like in our environment around us, those people in our world. And then as a result of that, and in that coupleship, we begin to sense what we see of ourselves. Now, there's a dynamic as we interact with that family of origin, our family, core family group, or in our coupleship, that we begin with that interaction going back and forth, we identify ourselves implicitly as who we are based on that relationship. It gives us feedback. It gives us an idea of who we are and what we're like. And so that's our identity in a lot of ways. Now, what happens is that comes a day, whether it's through disclosure or through discovery, that you suddenly realize the person you're married to is not who you thought. There have been things go on in this relationship that you didn't know or you weren't sure about or couldn't put your finger on it, and suddenly your marriage, your relationship, your family, and everything is now all blown up. You're not sure now what to trust. Whether you trust you, whether you trust the universe, whether you trust the relationship, the person you're in a relationship with, you don't know how to trust it. And so it goes through this period of maybe, there's this reaction that goes through us that we often can be angry, we argue, we fight. There's all kinds of stuff that can go on in these early days of trying to put the pieces back together, where we feel like we're being lied to, we're not sure we're getting the truth, we've been gaslit. There's all this anger that comes up, and pretty much that's from panic, that's fear. A lot of that is we don't know what to believe anymore. We don't know what to go by. Now, it can be and I'm talking either way. This goes either way in the relationship, whether it's a female acting out or it's a male acting out. A lot of times there's all this either shutdown or anger and constantly questioning, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. What you're trying to do is piece together the pieces of your life. Then when we are alone and in the secret of the silence of our own brain, we're confused. We don't know, or the spouses don't know. Bottom line is that not only do we not know who we're married to, how much of this marriage was real, but there comes a point where we're not even sure about ourselves and who we are. We don't know. We've lost that anchoring. And so it can send us into depression. It can send us into, a mental confusion, or I call it cognitive dissonance somewhere along the way, and I'll share that, is that we don't know. Our brains don't know how to put all the pieces together. We've lost our groundedness. And so we ask a lot of questions. We probably ask questions we shouldn't be asking. We don't need to know some of those details. But what we're desperately trying to grasp or understand. Now, if you're trying to understand why the addict did what they did, what went on, and why that took place, you're not going to really get answers that's going to make good sense to you anyway. So I would suggest that that's probably not where you need to go to get an understanding of some of this. What you need to understand, first of all, is to get grounded yourself in what's been going on in your own brain. And it's a fantastic brain. It works a certain way. What research has shown us is that there's a place in our mind which we call the lower limbic system, which carries a lot of implicit knowledge, memory of things that we like, the colors, the smells, the taste, all of these things that we can identify and about memories about ourselves. It kind of helps us know who we are. And then there's the other part of the brain, the parietal area of the brain, which carries explicit information, that information is about the universe outside of us. And so when these two areas, what we believe is real on the outside, and then what we believe is real about ourselves, and when those two kind of work together, we call that, that's when we call a confidence in knowing. Science calls that when the two parts of the brain says, yes, what I know out here matches with what I know inside here, then I have a confidence in knowing. The brain likes this. The brain really it feels confident that if I know what's going on out there and I know it matches what's going on in here, then I'm not likely to die. Bottom line is that's where we died in the past. Now, what I want you to understand here is that where the rub comes is that you suddenly wake up and realize through this disclosure or through discovery that what you thought was real is really not real, that you were gaslit, you were deceived, it was an illusion. And so you're not real sure how much of that is real and how much of that you have placed in there, and you were gaslit, you were deceived, there was an illusion. And then there's the other part. It really brings you back to is now what you think or thought about yourself, you're no longer sure about. You're not real sure if who you are, because the connection of those two are so important for us in our own identity. Now, when that happens, I call that cognitive dissonance. We no longer have confidence in knowing. We question everything. We question our partners, our spouses. We question ourselves. We question the universe. We question God. We don't know what to trust anymore. Our brain is in panic mode. Now, the problem in trying to get the addict to understand this, or the addict to understand the spouse, is that you always knew in both areas of your brain, you knew implicitly, you knew inside who you were and what you were doing. You also knew what your partner or spouse knew or didn't know, and you always knew that. So there is no cognitive dissonance there. You always had confidence in knowing. So your ability to connect with a spouse there is really, really hard. Your brain is still okay. It's saying, hey, I know what's going on. I feel confident. Now, meanwhile, the partner or spouse is trying to look around the world and try to figure out, where do I begin to find truth? Their brain feels like somebody's gotten it and run off with it. And basically, if you've gaslit, you've deceived, or you've shamed your partner for asking questions and one of other things, then basically what you've done is you've hijacked their brain. And yes, they're going to feel that way. Now, they're going to turn around and try to shake the truth out of you, try to get some understanding out of it, and they could resort to all kinds of things that are really not them. It really isn't help, but they're in a panic mode. You're trying to figure out what's going on and what's the truth. There's arguing and fighting and reasoning, and you're trying to explain. What happens with this is that you really never, ever get the answers. Your brain still lacks that confidence in knowing. It just doesn't make sense. Your brain gets really tired. It's now no longer confident. It's not healthy either. Now, if you go to places to try to find this empathy and they don't get it, they're not in the same place, and you're going to be like the elephant in the room. Nobody's going to get you, and nobody's going to really want to talk to you about it either, because they don't get it. They're going to give you all kinds of advice you really don't need. What you need is others in your world that have been in your shoes, that are somewhere along in the journey, so that you can connect and tell your story, hear other stories. And then there's that sense of empathy, because they get it. Your brain knows that when it's telling the story, it's your story to someone else that's got the similar or somewhat like story, then it heals. It's connecting. Whether you're doing that in a smaller group, in a recovery group, a 12-step group, or therapy-led group, or whether you're doing it with your sponsor, one-on-one. I did that oftentimes, meeting with my sponsor. It was one of the most healing things that I did, either my sponsor or somebody in my group. Now, one of the things I'd like to challenge you to do, and here's a way to reclaim parts of your life, is that I want you to go through and build a gratitude line and just a timeline of your life, and then go through and say, what events do you know were real? And how did you feel about those events? Did you really enjoy it? Was it fun for you? Regardless of what your spouse has been doing, what's it been for you? So that you can begin to reclaim your life events as real and meaningful to you. And that's the way you can get back to some of your reality. And regardless of what the addict has been doing in your life, at least you know what's real. And for you, no one can take that away from you. And that's really important. Now, remembering that as you share these events with others and you begin to share the events of things that have happened that have been really healing in your life, then that empathy going back and forth, the brain will heal. And key thing is that you will have healthy adult thinking. That's your objective. That's your goal, is that somehow or another you'll get to the point where you can think in a healthy way. That's your goal. And that's got to be your job, not your spouse's. Thank you much. And I hope this is a help. If you got any questions, then leave them in the comments section, and I'll try to respond to them. Have a good day. And once again, this is Eli, Show Up 365. Show up, be real, finish well.